You grabbed an item off the shelf because of the price on the tag, and the register charged you something completely different. Ever wonder whether the store is actually allowed to do that? Today I'll explain scanner laws and pricing rights like you're 5 years old. By the end, you'll know the one move that completely changes the outcome the next time this happens to you. Quick note before we go. This is legal education, not legal advice. Laws vary by state, so always check your local consumer protection office if you need specifics. Now let's go back to that moment. You're standing at the register. Maybe it's a big box store. Maybe it's a grocery store. You grabbed that item specifically because of the price on the tag. You budgeted around it, and maybe you passed on something else because this one looked like a deal. The number on the screen is higher than what you expected. You say something and the cashier calls a manager. The manager shrugs and says basically, "Sorry, the tag was a mistake. You pay the higher price or you leave without the item." You feel cheated because you were, and it's not a good feeling. But were you actually cheated illegally? Here's where most people assume the answer is obvious. You see a price, they charge you a different price. That's bait and switch. That's textbook fraud, and it has to be illegal. Surely that can't just be allowed. It can. And this is the counterintuitive twist at the heart of this whole video. In the United States, a price tag is not a legal contract. It's what lawyers call an invitation to bargain, which sounds like something a used car salesman invented, but it's actually a real legal concept with centuries behind it, rooted in common law contract principles that predate the United States entirely. The law treats a price tag the way it treats a number written on a chalkboard menu. It's an offer to negotiate, not a binding promise. The actual contract only forms when you and the store agree on a price at the point of sale. So technically, legally, in most states, the store can say, "Our register says this amount, that's what we're charging. The tag was an error, and we're fixing it now." The manager knew that going in. You didn't, and that's exactly how they like it. But here's where the store's little legal shield has some very specific cracks in it. Several states have passed scanner laws, and they are exactly what they sound like. If the price that scans at the register is higher than the price marked on the item or on the shelf, the store owes you something real, not a shrug, something with a dollar amount attached. In Michigan, it's called the scanner law, and it has teeth. If the scanned price is higher than the marked price, and the item costs $10 or more, you get the item free. Free! Up to a $5 adjustment on items under $10. You walk out paying nothing. And here's the part that makes retail managers visibly uncomfortable. In Michigan, you can actually collect a bounty for reporting overcharges after the fact, up to $5 per item. You don't even have to be standing in the store when you report it. People have turned this into a serious hobby. Truly. There are online communities dedicated to tracking which stores in Michigan are repeat offenders and sharing exactly how to file the claim efficiently. Michigan is the most aggressive example, but it's not alone. California, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and several others have similar protections. They vary. Some require a refund plus a bonus. Some just require the lower price. Some route complaints through the state attorney general. The details differ, but the principle is the same. Once a price is marked, the store takes on a legal responsibility. Breach it, and there's a consequence that actually costs them money. This is the part where the store's legal team would prefer you stopped watching. Now here's the part that trips people up even when they know scanner laws exist. Knowing the law is only half the move. The other half is what you say and how you say it. Here's the move. You pull up the scanner law on your phone right there in line. You say, politely, clearly, "I understand there was a pricing error. Under state scanner law, I believe I'm entitled to this item at the marked price, possibly at no charge. Would you like to handle this here, or should I contact the state consumer protection office?" Watch the shrug disappear. Not yelling, not making a scene, just knowing the specific law that makes their "sorry, it was a mistake" answer cost them something. The store wasn't lying when they said the tag was an error, but an error with no consequence is just a policy they can run forever. An error with a legal penalty attached? That's a different conversation. Now here's an important wrinkle. Not every state has a scanner law. In states without one, the store genuinely is within their legal rights to charge you the higher price. But even there, you're not out of options. Most large retailers have internal price match policies more generous than the law requires. Policies they'd rather honor quietly than escalate. Ask for the store policy in writing. Managers move faster when you use the word written. That single word signals that you're documenting the interaction, and the entire tone of the conversation tends to shift immediately. And here's something most people miss completely. Consumer protection laws in almost every state prohibit systematic deceptive pricing, meaning one overcharge at one register is a mistake. The same overcharge happening across 300 locations every single day? That's a business model. Courts and regulators treat those very differently. If you suspect a pattern, prices consistently scanning higher than marked, that's a complaint to the state attorney general. That's potentially a class action. Attorneys who handle those cases work on contingency, meaning they don't get paid unless you do. One phone call costs you nothing. Several major retailers have already settled scanner-related class action suits for millions of dollars, money that went directly to the customers who were overcharged. Here's another layer most people miss entirely. If you used a credit card and were charged more than the advertised price without clear disclosure, you may have a valid dispute with your bank under the Fair Credit Billing Act. That's federal law. You can file a chargeback. The store then has to prove you agreed to the higher price. Good luck to them explaining that a price tag means nothing when they're defending the charge to Visa. The power dynamic in that conversation looks very different than the one at the register. There's one more thing worth knowing, and it's the piece that makes this whole system make sense. Stores don't accidentally undercharge you. Have you ever noticed that? Scanner errors are remarkably one-directional. They don't scan lower than the tag. They scan higher. Every time. That's not bad luck. Pricing systems get updated regularly. Promotional prices expire. Sale tags sometimes stay on shelves long after the sale ends in the system. And when the system hasn't caught up to the shelf tag, the store quietly collects the difference from every customer who doesn't know they have a right to push back. One store, hundreds of transactions a day. Studies have found scanner error rates at some retailers running as high as 3 to 4% of all transactions. Do that math across an entire chain with thousands of locations. That's not an accident. That's arithmetic. So let's bring it back to where this started. You, standing at that register, watching that number on the screen. The manager just told you no. Here's what you now know that most people never figure out. The tag isn't a contract. In most states, the store is legally right about that. But in many states, that's where their advantage ends. Scanner laws flip the script entirely. A credit card dispute hands the burden of proof back to them. A pattern of errors is a complaint, or a case. And the internal policy conversation, done calmly and specifically, almost always goes better than the frustrated customer conversation. The store wasn't scared of you when you were just frustrated. They're scared of you when you know the specific law that costs them money. That's not helpless, that's a superpower. So here's the question I want you to sit with. Drop your answer in the comments. If stores face a real financial penalty every time their scanner overcharges you, do you think that actually makes them more careful with pricing? Or do they just build the fines into the budget and keep running the same play?